André Perugia was one of the most revolutionary footwear designers of the 20th century. From the 1920s to the 1960s, he produced luxurious shoes for clientele across the world. Perugia became famous for his imaginative designs, sharp attention to detail, and the major innovations he introduced to the world of fashion, including the use of exotic skins in footwear, the articulated sole, and the first thin metal heel. In the mid-1920s, women's hemlines became shorter than they ever had in the history of Western fashion, bringing new attention to footwear. Economic prosperity in this decade also meant that there was an appetite for expensive and extravagant fashion and accessories. Perugia responded to this cultural moment by creating footwear that had intricate details and lavish embellishments. In the early 1920s, he was the first designer to create women's evening shoes with uppers made entirely of glittering rhinestones. This brilliant jewel-like pair is representative of how Perugia approached footwear design, with inventiveness and luxury in mind. The glamour of the 1920s ended with the Great Depression. Footwear in the 1930s became less ornamented, but also more experimental. Perugia's designs led this change as he increasingly played with form, material, and structure. One of his central innovations involved subtracting elements of footwear through cutouts and structural changes to challenge the traditional structure of a shoe. Perugia's mask shoe is one of his most recognizable and often copied designs. It was inspired by Venetian masks and first released in the 1920s. This brilliantly inventive and futuristic-looking shoe is missing its shank, which is the middle part of a shoe that connects the sole and heel. The design was first mentioned in Vogue in the 1930s and was later described by Harper's Bazaar as, quote, beautiful, bizarre, and wonderfully comfortable. It remains one of Perugia's most iconic inventions. In the mid to late 1930s, Perugia produced footwear for notable fashion houses, including Marcel Rojas and Paquin, but his most creative partnership was with the Surrealist fashion designer Elsa Schiaparelli. Ankle booties briefly came into fashion in the late 1930s, and Perugia produced two unique versions for her collections. The black boot is made of colobus monkey fur, which was extremely fashionable in this decade and used extensively by Schiaparelli in her designs. The shiny gold boot is a more classic and historical design. The button closures reference 19th century women's footwear, and the scalloped top line adds an Art Deco twist. In 1951, Perugia once more revolutionized footwear design by creating barely visible sandals with steel shanks and thin steel heels. They were unlike any other shoe produced in the 1950s, and were made possible by changes in steel production during World War II. The technology and innovation used to create the blade heel led to the development of the stiletto later in the decade, which 75 years later remains an icon of women's fashion. In 1956 to 1958, Perugia introduced another radical new invention for I. Miller. This revolutionary pair of shoes features interchangeable heels held in place with removable bolts, allowing the wearer to customize their look. In the past 25 years, many designers have created footwear with changeable heels, often unaware that they were building on an innovation first patented by Perugia himself. From the mid-20th century onwards, many footwear designers would take inspiration from Perugia's designs, ensuring that his legacy endured long after his death in the 1970s. In recent years, Manolo Blahnik, Ferragamo, and Miu Miu have released footwear based on Perugia's work from decades earlier. One notable example is a pair of shoes Perugia released in the 1950s, a shoe that looks like a carved human foot. For spring-summer 2021, Schiaparelli released footwear with well-defined toes as part of the brand's revival under the direction of Daniel Roseberry. For 4 decades, Perugia pushed the boundaries of design and form in his work, creating beautiful and classic shoes as well as novel and surreal works of art. Today, brands like Schiaparelli continue in this tradition.